First off, when it comes to getting into rabbit breeding, don't do what I do. Don't start off with sub-quality stock and then breed it better. Get as close to the SOP as you can, even if you are just raising meat. And that's because commercial type rabbits are based off of the most meat yield compared to conformation of the rabbit. Your girl just likes playing with things. And I will say, depending on breed, sometimes I get lackluster stock from my beginning stock that was like $5 a rabbit. But it cost me much more in the long run than me just saving up a little bit of money and spending $50 on a good rabbit. And I'm not saying you need to go to show and buy like a super expensive rabbit. I'm just saying make sure that they are correct towards the SOP, at least in body type. Now, if you're just breeding for meat and it's for your family, but you want some really cool colors or whatever, that's fine. You don't have to stick to the SOP with color. Now, if you are just breeding for meat, I would suggest just getting something like a Californian or a New Zealand, like commercial meat rabbits, because you're gonna get the most bang for your buck. And then for your setup, do not make the mistake that young Madison made when she was getting back into rabbits. Do not buy cheap little hutches with the idea of, oh, I'll just get this for now and then I will get wire cages later because this is cheaper at the moment. It's not cheaper. You're lying to yourself. Those cool wood hutches, they're gonna get destroyed and you're going to spend so much money. And the Do More cages are cheaper. And the Pet Lodge cages, which are nicer than the Do More cages, are only slightly more expensive. You're talking like $5 to $10 more expensive, but it's so worth it. Get wire cages. Save you so much in the way of time, in the way of effort, in the way of sanitation. And the metal cages are going to last longer, so you don't need to buy them as often. And I say this with a 20-year-old metal cage in my barn. So I gotta say, I'm pretty pleased with one's litter this time. They're about a week old, they're all doing very well, and I got an odd amount of chinchillas and broken chinchillas. And let me show you. So here are the 4 that are still with one. I have 2 solid chins, and I have 2 broken chins. So that's 4 chins. Then when we go over to the ones I have fostered onto Tati, if you look, I have 2 more solid chinchillas and only 1 broken black. So out of all of these babies, she only had 1 baby that wasn't a chin. And y'all, they're all dark chins. Not a single one looks to be chocolate or lilac, so I am very pleased. And there's the fat little Californian kit. Still hoping for a boy. Yeah, that's super easy. The reason why I want chins is because that's the color I like showing. And although I will show any color, I want my lines to be all chinchilla or broken chinchilla. The more predictable my lines are at throwing chinchilla, the more true they are to that color. But because chinchilla is an agouti color, you do have a lot of recessives that hide underneath the chinchilla. Hence why I get casters or blacks or broken blacks. Chinchilla is really good at hiding things. But if I am breeding my rabbits and they are consistently throwing chinchilla, 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 that's what I'm working towards. And I've talked about this before, but this is also why I line breed. Predictability in what I am getting. So I just got 2 outcrosses for my line breeding for my standard Rex. But if I know the kits that are being thrown from my current line breeding are true to throwing chins, I can put them with the does I currently have and get chins with a recessive of something else, so I don't have to work as hard as getting that recessive line out. It's a lot easier to get rid of a recessive by breeding in a dominant when you know you don't have a carrier of another color. But yeah, long story short, I just like chinchillas. So I always preface this with saying I don't have anything against Flemish Giants. I think they are adorable. They are huge. With that being said, they make horrible meat rabbits in comparison to commercial meat rabbits, and let me explain. So something you have to look at when it comes to a meat rabbit is bone to meat ratio, meaning how much of their weight is actually meat compared to bone. On commercial meat rabbits, such as Californians and New Zealand's, they have a mass amount of muscle growth within the first few months. So they have a very high meat yield. Flemish, on the other hand, don't. What grows first on them is their bones. So you have them with a lower meat yield. Now, all rabbits are edible. We've gone over this a million times. And if you're already raising Flemish Giants because you love them or you show them, then perfect for you. But if you are a small homestead just looking to keep a couple of meat rabbits, I highly suggest staying away from Flemish. I've talked to Flemish breeders before, and it takes a full year before they get to the weight where they are comfortable to breed them. Compared to, let's say, your Californians, which normally take about 6 months or so. That's a huge difference on its own. But then again, when we are looking at when you would butcher out a Californian around 2 to 3 months, they have about 5 pounds on them that's mostly meat. A Flemish might weigh the same amount, but they don't have that meat yield. It would be great for stocks and bone broth, but not for meat. Also, with an extended grow out time, you have to keep in mind the amount of feed you're putting into that rabbit, which is going to cost you more than if you were to butcher that rabbit out earlier if it were a commercial meat rabbit. You would get a higher yield, so to speak, because Flemish do get bigger than Californians, but with that being said, is it worth the off price of feed currently? In my opinion, it's best to stay with a commercial type breed like a Californian or a New Zealand. So if you are trying to make a rabbit look better for show, it's kind of hard to just bathe them, and I highly suggest against that because rabbits don't do very well in self-regulating their temperature, and it can also give them upper respiratory problems. But what I do is if I have a white rabbit that's going to show, I will take a terry cloth, like a microfiber cloth, and just barely dampen it with diluted hydrogen peroxide, and I will just rub it all over the animal's body. And if need be, I will spot check them. So if they have a spot like this that is yellow on their hind end, I will take more of that concentrated solution and take like a Q-tip or a cotton ball, and I will rub it down to, it'll get it wet, but also it will like move that stain out. I haven't been desperate enough to try purple dye yet. But in the video we're talking about here, Freak has a couple of hutch stains on his butt, just from him spraying his resting mat and then setting his butt into it. He is disgusting. I don't thankfully have to ever worry about showing him, but if I would probably just take a little stronger hydrogen peroxide and just wipe it off. The problem I have a lot of times are feet. So I will get a lot of rabbits that have white feet, and on the bottoms of their feet it'll be stained, and it drives me nuts. But other than that, I haven't had to really do any like super serious scrubbing on my rabbits to get them ready for show. Y'all, it is hot today, which is the first time it's like been hot up here, and I'm hiding in the barn for a few minutes because it's hot, and I got the fan blowing in here, so it's nice. But I just got a couple of bucks separated out from 2, and now she only has 3 babies in with her. So we've started weaning them, and we finished up a breeding session between a few of our does and bucks because I know for sure now that Belle isn't pregnant. So I rebred my champagnes. And again, this doe has until September to produce a litter before I get another doe because that's when the other does will be ready, but I'm a little frustrated. I just want champagne babies! And we got some weights down, and we got some nails trimmed, so we got some maintenance stuff done. And now I just gotta get the barn cleaned out. I have a couple of spots that I need to scrub out and clean and rethrow stall refresher. It's like an ammonia blocker, so gonna get that done, but feeling a little lazy today, aren't we, Yana? Thank you. But I'm really upset that, I looked through her litter and she has 1 doe. Just 1 doe. Now, thankfully, that doe is the largest out of the litter, so that's amazing, especially since it's my meat line, but still a little frustrated. 1 doe. Just 1! And then the other 5 are bucks. So I'm hoping her next litter, if I do decide to give her a next litter, I've been hemming and hawing about butchering her out, but I'm hoping next time she has more does if I do breed her. So first off, I want to say, you know, it's horrible you lost your entire litter of baby bunnies. That like really does honestly suck. When it comes to bottle feeding babies, bottle babies can be extremely fickle. And when it comes to feeding them, I will say I don't take my vet's advice. From a standpoint, I've always been told just to feed them like plain kitten milk or goat milk, but I have found that that's not calorically dense enough for the kits, especially if you're bottle feeding them and they aren't getting that much to drink. So what I do to ensure that there's enough calories in the milk for these baby bunnies is I will take kitten milk, and instead of adding water to it, I will add heavy whipping cream, a probiotic, and rock candy syrup. And then also when it comes to nipples, I'll either use a squirrel nipple or I will get the smallest kitten nipple I can find and cut the front off. And something I highly suggest learning, and you can learn this from a vet or a wildlife rescue, do not do this on your own, is tubing the babies. So if I have like really, really young kits that aren't eating correctly, I will tube them. But I'm also going to tag a couple of my friends in the comments who have like way more time than I do when it comes to bottle feeding babies, just in case anyone out there do have bottle babies and they're struggling. Maybe they'll be able to help out as well, but bottle babies are a pain in the butt. I have a nutrition rate of about 10%, meaning if I have a litter of 10, I'll lose one kit. So I have a pretty good rate of survival for bottle babies, which is really quite difficult to achieve, and I'm pretty proud of those numbers. But I've also found with bottle babies, even though moms normally feed them only twice a day, being in the morning and at night, a lot of times bottle babies don't get the amount that they should, so I'll feed them 3 to 4 times a day in smaller amounts if need be. Just be careful because it is very easy for baby bunnies to aspirate on their milk, meaning the milk goes into the lungs or they inhale that milk and then they basically drown. But for my other breeders who have a really high success rate with bottle babies, what do y'all do? I'm always looking for more tools for my tool belt. So I get this question often, or I get at least a variation of this question quite often. As someone who raises meat rabbits, it's essential that I cull out my stock in order to be able to butcher them. Not to mention the instances when we have sick rabbits or injured rabbits that need put down. And when we do this, we want to be as humane as possible, and one of the most humane ways to do it is cervical dislocation. My preferred method of this is through the broomstick method. Another common way to do this is called the hopper popper. The difference is you have the broomstick method where the animal is on the ground and you pull up, and with the hopper popper, you put the animal in the contraption and pull down. The effect is still the same, cervical dislocation. I have a more in-depth video on this of how I do it with a stuffed animal here on TikTok. But I also have a bunch of butcher videos up on my YouTube if you are interested in seeing the process beginning to end, meaning a live animal to when it's ready to be cooked. But conversations like this are very important when it comes to farmers and homesteaders to the general populace or people who are interested in maybe trying meat animals. I feel the more transparent we are and the more open conversations we have, the better the industry will be understood. Because at the end of the day, as people who raise animals, we want them to have the best life possible and only one bad day. A bad day that's over very quickly. That's my preferred method though. If you raise rabbits, I would love to hear your preferred methods down in the comments below.